Hello and welcome to day 7 of the How to Get Started with Solana Development in 2026 video series. Yes, I know my beat grows quickly, and today on this final day of this series, we're gonna talk about where to go from here. Because we did touch on the most important things already, but I still want to mention a few things like local testing, vibe coding and the involvement of AI, and then also where you can get further information and how I recommend that you continue this journey from here on. And in the end, we're gonna do a quick recap of this week. So, actually let's start with a recap. In case you forgot what happened the past 6 days, or you skipped them. On day 1, we were talking about what Solana is and we were introducing the Solana CLI. We were creating ourselves a key pair that we then used to work with for the entire week. Day 2, we had a look at instructions and transactions and how we can send a transaction with the Solana kit. Day 3, we were building our first program with Anchor. And on day 4, we improved our program to use PDAs. And we were also talking about how a program can call another program through CPI. Then day 5, we were talking about tokens. And yesterday, on day 6, we talked about serialization and deserialization and wrote our first Pinocchio program. That was that. Feel free to go back and rewatch those if you need to. Now, so far, all that we did, we were operating on DevNet. However, sometimes DevNet can be slow or just also inconvenient to work with. Maybe you don't even have an internet connection or just a really bad one. Then sometimes it makes more sense to deploy stuff locally for testing. So I quickly want to walk you through how you would do that for day 7. So the first way how you can do this is with a Solana test validator. You can just run this and then this spins up one local test validator. The real Solana cluster is made up of several validators, obviously, but locally we just need one because one is enough. We don't need to do consensus with other entities. It's enough if my validator has all the state. And now with this thing running, I can basically now interact with it the same way as I would do with a regular RPC on DevNet or mainnet. I'll just use this RPC URL, the local one. So this is my local host on port 8899. And I can just configure my Solana CLI to use that. And I can say Solana config set to local. This is the short form of writing URL and this. So we now set to local and we can say Solana balance and see, oh, great. We already got a bunch of sol in here because it's local. Here it's super easy to just say Solana airdrop, give me another one of these. Okay, this is too much. My faucet doesn't even have that much. Okay, whatever. But I can just say, give me another 1,000 sol and that will just work. It's not that easy on DevNet and it's certainly not possible on mainnet. But locally, I have full control basically. It's just a local ledger that we're creating here. So in this test ledger, it holds all the state. And we could check how much balance is on the faucet. This much is left on the faucet. So that's where the airdrop comes from. So that's how much I could still airdrop myself. But it's not too important. Now I can basically do all the things that we did so far. So for instance, I could now deploy the program from yesterday to local by saying Solana program deploy and going to day 6 target deploy and the day 6. Oh, then it will deploy this program to the same address. We do still have the same key pair. And that was also a bit faster than on DevNet to deploy this. And now if I want to call this program, I'm just going to do the same thing as we did yesterday, just not on DevNet but on localnet. Or I could also put the URL in here and then npx tsx call program. There we go. That is my transaction. And since that's all just local, I'll have to use the CLI to look at this with Solana confirm -v and then the signature. Then I get the transaction details where we see it processed the init instruction, it processed the set mood, and it processed the get mood, and the account is happy. And that's now all local, that's not on DevNet. So this transaction obviously if I were to try and find it on DevNet, it's not there because that's all just local. And there's a way to set this up such that it also works with the Explorer, but it's a bit of a pain if you're using WSL. So I'm just using the CLI. Okay, so that's a bit, that's okay. We can test locally like this if all of our stuff is local. However, sometimes you want to test in an environment that behaves like mainnet and that has other programs available. And for that, what I can recommend is that instead of using the Solana test validator, you use surfpool. And you just say surfpool start, and it will spin up a local validator like the Solana test validator, just that this thing behaves like if it's mainnet, but it's still local, but it will get some accounts from mainnet if it needs them. And otherwise, I can use it the very same way. We're still on local, but since we changed the underlying validator, the state is now different. So here I first need to say I want an airdrop, but again, it doesn't matter how much I say because it's local. It will give me however much I want. And then I can do the same thing of deploying a program. There we go. Same program now also deployed here on my surfpool validator. And then I call it the same way. And this transaction, I could either again Solana confirm it here locally, or, and that's another cool thing about surfpool, I check it out in the studio. So that's a UI. And if I look at my transaction here, I can see that this transaction has 4 instructions. I can see all of the accounts and I can see the logs. And also here, the mood is happy, which is a bit nicer to look at it like this. So yeah, surfpool. I did make separate videos on surfpool. I quite like it for local testing. So that's certainly one thing that you can check out by yourself, surfpool.run. You'll also find some docs. So this could certainly be one of the next steps for you to look at. Also, docs.solana.com I highly recommend. That's the main documentation for Solana developers. Official documentation, where you find examples from getting started through different SDKs, even on running a validator. You can revisit all of the core concepts that we also already talked about, but maybe you prefer it in text. It will talk about tokens and token extensions. That's certainly another topic that you can look into in more depth. Also here I have a bunch of videos, I have an entire playlist on token extensions, because there are a bunch of extensions here. And if you're unclear about some words, then you can look up the terminology. That's quite helpful as well. For instance, the program ID is the public key of the account containing the program. That was also quite helpful for me in the very beginning, where I didn't know what some things meant, checking out the terminology page on the docs. And if you're looking for something specific, you can just search or ask the AI, what is a PDA? And then it will give you a plausible answer with sources to where it has that information from. It's an account whose signing authority is a program. That's also one nice way to put it, yeah? So it's not through a private key, but the program has the signing authority. And also, like I said in my videos, 2 main features for PDAs: to provide a deterministic way of finding an account's address, and they allow a program from which the PDA is derived to sign for them. That's the 2 use cases. Yeah. And then you can look at the docs page and read up on it some more. So yeah, the docs, really helpful. AI, also really helpful. Maybe a few words on AI while we're here. You might think that with AI models becoming smarter and smarter, at some point we as Solana developers won't need to do any developing anymore because the AI can do it anyway, right? You can just vibe code all of your program. And that is true to a degree. In my opinion, and this is now just very, my view on things, I still, first of all, like to know how stuff works on Solana. I want to understand it because it's just a fun game for me. I don't want to just tell the AI, hey, do all of this for me and then I'm done. And also, we're not quite at the point yet where we can tell the AI, hey, build me that program that does all of those things and then it will just do it. For now, it's really just good for doing some coding tasks. And I use AI too. If you watch my videos, you'll see me vibe code as well, because I'm mainly too lazy to write it all myself and go through docs, and the AI is way faster and probably better at that. But I still want to understand it. An AI is basically just an assistant, a junior dev, or an intern if you want. But would you let your intern develop the entire application? Probably not. Unless it's just a hobby project and you're doing this to learn, then okay, yeah, fine. But if you're really building apps for production that are supposed to handle other people's funds, then maybe you want to be a bit careful with that. Of course, you can have AI help you, but it's still up to you to architect the program and to say what the AI should code. Then it can help you code. That's fine, it can do that. It's usually not so bad at that. And I have planned more videos on vibe coding and comparing different AIs, which one is best for Solana development. You can subscribe to make sure that you can see those. But yeah, AI for now is a great tool. It's not good enough to completely get rid of Solana devs. So I still think that it makes sense for you to learn how to develop on Solana. And even if one day AIs will be smart enough to just develop the programs by themselves, I still enjoy to have an understanding of it, just because it's fun for me. But yeah, it could be that eventually we're all out of jobs. But for now, I would still argue that it makes sense to learn how to become a Solana developer. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this and putting my energy into it, you know? But yeah, do use AI. I'm not against AI. Just let it help you, but don't give it all the responsibility. That's basically what I would say on that. Okay, good enough. That covers that thing. But there are tools like skills there. Solana dev skills. There's an entire repository with dev skills for Claude Code, for instance. So if you want to teach your agent to do Solana development, that is a thing that you might want to add. And also that I'm planning to make a video about. See, there are so many things that I like to make videos about. And if you check out my channel, I have almost 300 videos on Solana development. There are interesting topics in there that you can check out. And the cool thing is, with those basics that you learn, you should be able to follow all of those videos. Some of them might depend on others, and then I say that in the beginning usually. But yeah, feel free to just browse the channel or search for something specific. If you're interested in surfpool, for instance, I do have videos on that. I already have 3 videos on that. Or token extensions. Bunch of videos on token extensions. Or also security is an interesting topic that I like to make videos about. Look at that guy. So yeah, feel free to check out my videos. And if there's anything missing and you really want me to make a video about it, just leave me a comment down below and say, hey, this topic, make a video on that. Or post at me on X. You'll also find links to my videos there. And if you watched my videos and you went through the docs and you still have an issue where you can't find the solution, then I would recommend the Solana Stack Exchange. Here you can search for questions, maybe somebody else had the same question as you have, and otherwise you can ask a question and usually you get an answer quite quickly. So this is your go-to place if you need help with Solana development directly. If neither the docs nor my videos nor the AIs can help you, come to the Solana Stack Exchange. Another interesting topic that I recommend that you check out is the compute budget program and how compute units work. That will be relevant for you as a Solana dev, but I didn't yet mention that in this series. We've already seen it here. Every instruction requires some compute units, in short CU, and you can say up front how many compute units you need this transaction to have in total. And then the validators can prioritize accordingly, because if it uses fewer compute units, then it's easier to execute and therefore it will get a higher priority. Or the other way around, you don't need to pay so much for priority if you request fewer CUs for your transaction. Obviously, if you request too little, then the transaction will fail because it will only get as many as you request. But yeah, that's the whole topic of compute units that I recommend that you look at. There's a whole chapter in the docs for that. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you can still check out, and I have videos for most of it. Yeah, that's been our little series. And that's it. Congratulations, you made it. You went through the entire week of how to get started with Solana development in 2026. As already mentioned, this is just the start. This is just the foundation that you need to really get started, but it doesn't mean that you're a pro dev yet. Obviously, there's many more things that you need to check out, and especially you just gotta get practice. So what I recommend is that you just find yourself some interesting challenge, some program that you want to write, or some technology that you want to interact with, and then you just do that. Build something for the fun of it. just to get started and to get to know how Solana really works. And then once you got that far, maybe you find yourself an existing project and contribute to that. To also get a feeling for, well, how are other people doing things? Do I understand how all of that works? And then from there, you might join a team, or you might really start your own big project where you really also build something that is intended for other people to be used. There are so many hackathons and accelerators that if you really have something that you want to develop, if you have a good idea, there are opportunities how you can get funding for that as well. But this is projecting into the future. For now, I wish you all the best in your Solana development journey. Do let me know if those 7 days were helpful for you, or if you're still lacking some essential knowledge that I should have mentioned. One more time, here's the entire playlist of this week. You can revisit that as often as you want. Here's another video that might be interesting for you, and then I will see you in my next videos. Now we're open to discuss anything Solana related, because now you have the basics. Looking forward to seeing you back here talking about some advanced topics of Solana development. Until then, bye bye. Make sure you like and subscribe and all those things if you want to. You don't need to. I'm not dependent on that. But that's what YouTubers say, right? Yeah. Okay, bye!